I'm going to go through and have a look into, from an IT perspective, what do we do? How do we protect our data? Now, obviously, John said that he doesn't want to go in, it's Halloween, he doesn't want to scare you. I do want to scare you, and I want to really scare you into believing that, oh, wow, I need to go back to my company right now and check everything's still working. Yeah, there's me, wonderful picture of. Mark brought up the fact I look older in that picture earlier. I don't see it. But yeah, so I head up pre-sales for the EMEA region for Datto. And as you see on the posters, you may see kicking about, you see underneath 5nines, this is powered by Datto. So we work with ATG and it's kind of a joint solution between the two of us. So as I go through, if I slip up and say Datto at all, it's just because I've brainwashed. But yeah, so that's me. Now, like I said, we're going to look at defeating downtime. We don't like downtime. No one likes downtime. It's a massive nightmare. And looking at it, it's all about disaster recovery. Everyone uses this phrase that doesn't really mean much. So let's look at it from top level. What classes as a disaster? So to go really Hollywood on everyone, we've got, God only knows what happened there. We've got the world's biggest wave hitting some god-awful city somewhere. We've got that clip from that film Volcano, great film. We've got the biggest typhoon or hurricane that I've ever seen. And we've got an entire server rack underwater. It's too Hollywood. It doesn't relate to anything. I mean, the flooding maybe, but is it going to be that bad? That looks more like a swimming pool. So let's think more localized now. Let's think more that. I've worked in server rooms like that. It's fun. Makes you not want to touch anything. But what happens when someone comes in and unplugs that cable right there? What does that do? Where does that go? No one knows, and it could be a nightmare. Touching on current events, what happens when National Grid decide to come in and start chopping the road up? Well, it turns out that you can't come to an ATG event, apparently, so their loss. It's a shame. But, you know, if only they had a 5nines solution. And then, obviously, we're also looking at fires. Apparently, that's a fire. It just looks like down the back of a sofa to me, but so what happens if there's a fire in your office? But still, this is a little bit too much. I mean, you know, do these things happen regularly? No, not really. You know, we're still looking a little bit too far-fetched. So let's talk about the biggest disaster every company has. Let's talk about the one disaster that every company in this room and every company that ever comes to any one of these events ever again has. Right? And that disaster, that complete plague on systems is people. It is a nightmare. There are people in this room right now that I can guarantee when an email comes in saying, yeah, ATG sends out an email, right? It's this new thing coming out, just don't click this link. There's one person in every company that goes, oh, what's this? Oh, free holiday. And all of a sudden, you get something lovely like this, our friend CryptoLocker. Now, from me, I've got a bit of a security background as well. I've worked for some security companies. So when I see this, I get really excited and I get really geeky because it was fantastic. From me. For you guys, it was awful. For any of you that don't know CryptoLocker and what it did, basically it encrypted all your files within a PC or an infrastructure, and you had to pay some nasty little you-know-whats in some god-awful country a lot of money to get your files and folders back. No one likes paying out money. It's a big thing in mainly just the UK, actually. Why pay out money for things? You know, so we can protect against this quite happily just with 5nines business continuity solution. And we'll touch on how as we go through. Now, most people here will be saying, oh, I've got backup, it's fine, I don't need any of that. You know, I've got tapes, I've got USB drives, I've got the cloud, which is cool, that's fine. But let's put this into a scenario. So we've got this lovely clip art server here that's running away. If only it was a Fujitsu server, it'd be so much nicer. But it's running away, it's doing its thing, and all of a sudden it goes down. I love clip art, it's great. What do we do now? Where do I go? What happens? So we've got to wait for new hardware to be shipped. So if we've got one of our hardware vendors, and we won't use names, so I don't want to offend anyone in the room, and we've got to wait for new hardware to be shipped. So that's going to take X, hopefully next business day if we've got a good relationship. Then that hardware has to be imaged up with an operating system, and obviously this is going to take as long as it takes. You've then got to configure up that operating system, and that takes forever. You've got to put all the users back on it, everything. You've then got to transfer the data from the backup. Now, depending on how quick your network is, that's going to take as long as a piece of string is long. You've then got to test it, because you're not just going to put a piece of kit out without testing it. So the big thing here is, how long can I be down for? It's not a case anymore that a couple of days, a few days is acceptable. It's really not. Having that downtime is severe profitability that goes straight out the window. So there's actually an acronym, which is Recovery Time Objective. It's IT, acronyms for everything. Now, the recovery time objective is basically how long will it take your business to recover from that backup data, if it's within tape, USB drive, cloud, whatever. Now, looking within that, it's how long can your business be down for without a major loss of profitability as well. That's the biggest thing, because obviously everyone's out here to make money. If you don't make money, you don't live, and blah, blah, blah. So that's the biggest thing. Now, you can look at it from seconds. Can my business only be down for seconds? That's a little bit of a strange time frame to only be down for, but it's there. Is it minutes? Minutes is more usual. If you've got a few minutes downtime, it's acceptable. If we're starting to move up to hours, it becomes a little bit tetchy. Anyone in finance normally gets a little bit worried about life. And then if we move up to days, it's just no. Simple, can't do it anymore. Businesses cannot be down for that long, especially SME businesses, because it's just at that time frame where recoverability from that disaster just stops. You physically just don't have the ability to recover from 2 or 3 days of no money coming in. So it's a big thing to take into consideration, which is where intelligent business continuity comes in, which is what I'm here to talk about. I've kind of gone around the long way to go into the start of the show. So looking at what intelligent business continuity is, it's providing local and cloud backup and restore options. So gone are the days of having just a local thing are okay. Gone are the days of just having your data in the cloud. As John mentioned earlier, my data's in the cloud, it's fine. I've got a copy of my data, it's fine. That's a myth. As is the IT guys, or no, it doesn't work. So having both local and cloud, a true hybrid solution. We want instant virtualizations. Everything's got to be done instantly these days. If you wait around for things, you get bored, you start looking out the window, you see a squirrel run past, and you've forgotten everything you were doing. So it's got to be instant, and we want that both locally and in the cloud. And that's what, again, intelligent business continuity offers. We've got verification as well, the big one. How do you know your backup data is intact? Just out of curiosity here, testing of backup data, does it happen with you in your companies? Do you test it? Quick show of hands? No? Not really? Nothing? Yeah, we get, that's normally the face I get. Yeah. It's insane to think that you've got so much faith in a LTO5, LTO4 tape or a USB hard drive. I've got a USB hard drive at home that failed on me last week. That's got loads of stuff on it that, this is just personal information and personal documents, but it's still, I wanted that stuff. Your business data is on something similar. Can you really trust that? I wouldn't. Advanced image-based snapshotting of systems. To touch on this a bit further, here, just again, show of hands, how many of you do backup of files and folders? Good. I'd expect you guys to. Yeah. Okay, so looking at that, you'd have to go through that process of getting systems and re-imaging, blah, 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 blah. How many of you take advanced snapshots, images of your systems? Good, blank faces, wonderful. What this entails, I'm not just going to expect you to understand what that means. Basically what it is instead of just taking the files and folders and backing those up, which works, we've got something there. Instead of that, we've got an entire system image backup. So when we're looking at recovery, it's not just a case of, right, drag my files and folders back quick, get it back up and working. We can literally take that entire system image, back it up, and then when needed, restore it. And like I said earlier, within seconds. We're also looking at Exchange granular restoration. The Office 365 head just closed his ear slightly there because we're on-site Exchange, what's that? For those with on-site Exchange still, SBS server is still out there. Sorry, George. There's still people with Exchange on site. I'm going to guess some of you in the room do have local Exchange still. And having that granular restoration feature within that is key. When you need that one email back, when Mark deletes that email with his travel documentation for his holidays that no one really cares about because he's been going on about it for 3 weeks, but he cares about, he wants his tickets back, he wants that email back. So he goes downstairs and jumps up and down a lot. But in that scenario with an intelligent business continuity solution, you can do that. You can get those specific singular emails back. So it's kind of encompassing everything within recovery of data, but from a very wide level, all the way down to that very granular level. So let's do a them versus us comparison. So you guys with backup. Local protection against data loss. Backup, yeah, sure it does that. Of course it does, it's backup. Business continuity also does that. So ticks for all. Cloud protection against disasters. Sometimes backup does that. Sometimes you've got a cloud backup solution, which does it. Business continuity always does it. Restore both applications and files. Sometimes backup can do that. You're normally taking config files away from the systems and things like that. Whether it works or not, business continuity always does it. Local and cloud instant failover. Backup, no, it can't do it. It doesn't have the capability to spin systems up or use those images because it doesn't take images, it just takes files and folders. Business continuity does, so go us. And the ability to prevent downtime, that isn't something that a backup solution can do. It's not capable of stopping downtime within a company because it's just files and folders. And once again, we've got a big tick. So the recovery time objective, that wonderful acronym, hours to days with backups. Business continuity, seconds. I could just sit here and expect you all to believe the fact that everything I'm telling you is true, but let's be honest, I'm just some bloke with a dodgy mustache thing going on telling you about wonderful things within IT. I don't expect you to trust my word. So let's just show you it works. So this is the UI, this is the web UI, the front end of the appliance that would sit on your site. So when we're looking at a 5nines solution, and like I said, we've got these lovely pictures, there is a piece of hardware that goes on your site. We don't want to just say it's in the cloud, don't worry about it, because again, cloud, it's the worrying thing there. Within this on-site appliance, it will back systems up for you as little as every 5 minutes. So when we're looking at that downtime, we're going from maybe at the moment, I'm going to guess somewhere around the region, I take a backup at night time as a kind of a rough guesstimate. We're going from that all the way down to I'm taking a backup of my systems every 5 minutes of the day and night without affecting production environment, without stopping people from using those systems, and then having that time of data loss being lowered down to 5-minute intervals, which is pretty handy. And then replicating that data up to the cloud. So when I go into synchronize here, I can see that my data is both locally on the box itself, and I've got a load of space free. And if I just scroll over slightly there, we can also see that data is in the cloud, and I'm using roughly around the same amount. The data is compressed and deduped along the way, so when we're looking at how much data am I actually going to be storing in these places, it's going to be quite minimal. Plus, it's only the change data between backup 1 and backup 2, not first backup I've ever taken and now, which will create a massive backup. That's called a differential. We take incrementals, it's just the hours or the 5 minutes. Now, another thing I want you to think of now is cloud. Where is the cloud? Everyone says cloud and thinks, okay, it's in the cloud, that's fine. But where is your cloud? Where is your data stored? With a 5nines solution, it's in the UK, and it's going to stay in the UK. It's in Portsmouth, actually, which is not a stone's throw away from here, unless you've got a really Herculean arm going on. But it's in the UK still, and that stays in the UK. There's nothing with like the Patriots Act and the Americans being able to grab your data and do whatever they like with it. It's all staying within us. Now, to look at restoration, obviously, like I said, I'm not just going to expect you just to believe the fact that I can restore things within seconds. That sounds like witchcraft. Ties in with Halloween. Pun intended. So let's look at the very low-level type of restoration first. Let's look at files and folders because, like I said, people delete things all the time. I do it all the time. It's terrible. So I can go through, select any backup point that I've got stored locally here. I've got, a fair few. Let's go back to Monday at 2. There we go. And hit start. Now what this does is it takes our backup point, which is stored in VMware's VMDK format. So we don't use a proprietary format that we have to convert from, and because that makes things longer. We're just using that VMDK file. We're going to mount it up, as you see there, via Windows Network Share. It can be accessed just anywhere. I'm going to mount it up via the web share as well, because everything's nicer in a web view. And within this time frame, all it's doing is taking that file, cloning it, and mounting it. And there you go. Seconds. Told you. I wasn't just lying. And so now if I open up that web share, I can see that within here, there's the C volume for my GGPC. And if I click in, there are all the files and folders, and I can drill down into any folder there, find a file I need back, and just click it and download it, because obviously it's running through that web share. If we're running it through the network share, it's just drag and drop, copy and paste back into the live data set. And at that point, that is as simple as it is. You're looking at seconds to get files and folders back. So that's one level, but backup can do that. Maybe not as quick, but backup can do that. So let's go one step further. And if I just unmount that point quickly, the funny thing is, it actually takes longer to unmount than it does to mount and do the restore. I've never figured that one out. I keep asking our developer guys and they just tell me to go away. Developers. So, virtualization next. This is where things get really interesting. Now, if I just scroll over again. So obviously, we've already spoken about virtualization today and how that works. So what we have here built into the on-site appliance that would sit on your site is a hypervisor. So it's that virtual environment, that virtual system that can spin other machines up with inside it. So again, I can select any point that I've got here. Let's pick one there. There you go, 9 AM on Thursday. And I can start that virtualization up. Now, at this point, obviously, with all virtual machines, you can assign resources and options to it and change options. So I can assign CPU cores, so give it a bit more kick, and a bit more RAM to give it a bit more kick as well. I can change the boot disk if I need to. So if I've got all my operating system and all my files and folders on the D drive, not the C volume, then I can use that instead. Storage controller, this is where we're going to start getting a bit more technical and start looking at whether the system's a bit legacy or whether it's brand new. And the networking options. Now this is where things get really interesting, because so far I've just been harking on about how great business continuity is. What about testing? What about the cases where you need to get a system up and running in the case of viruses and things like that? What happens when you need a completely standalone system because everything's gone to pot on one system, you want to work out why? So with all these different networking options that we have here, I have the ability to get a system up and running within the way that I need it. So if it's because I need to install some new software, I'm just about to go out and put a patch on something Microsofty, then is it going to break everything? I don't know. Well, let's test that first. Prove that it works, and then we can apply that to our main systems, knowing that it's not going to have a knock-on effect to Sage or something like that. Now, if it was a disaster, it would be bridged back to the primary NIC, but as this is still running in my office back in Reading, I don't need to. I'm just going to start it. So this is literally just pulling this point in time, that backup data, mounting it onto the hypervisor within our system and booting it up. It's almost like having that piece of hardware in your office and just hitting the power button. But on average, when we're looking at us versus, again, when we're looking at timeframes taken for our system to do it versus other systems out there, we're 6 seconds on average. So that's 6 seconds of downtime. Other systems, you'd have to convert, you'd have to do X, Y, and Z to get usable images. We're talking half an hour, hours, etc. And then once we're done, we can just connect in. And so many things to click. Here we go. Here's my system booting up. It's about the same time frame it takes for you to go and literally turn the power back on a system. It's the same. And there we go. It's my wonderful server 2008 R2 enterprise machine up and running again. In this case, it's an Exchange server, so now my emails would start working again. There's no redirection. There's no extra configuration that we'd need to do on your systems. Everything would just start working. With the fact that you've got ATG behind you monitoring everything, sometimes they'll be able to get systems back up and running before you've even realised that something's gone wrong. So there we are looking at a bit of witchcraft, but it works. And there I can start using it. It's just, as you see, if there's a bit of lag, but that's because I'm connecting back to Reading. So yeah. And then obviously once we're done, we just stop and unmount and get everything into that backup ready state again for the next time I need to use that point. But we're not done. Because obviously now you've just got a system that's in use there, but I've got a new piece of kit that has been delivered. What do I do now? At this point, we're going to say, well, let's restore your systems back. And what we can use is the bare metal restore option built into the solution to actually drag that VMDK stored backup image across the network on your local site, so it's at land speed, pretty quick, back onto that new piece of hardware, completely brand spanking new, nothing on it, and image that up using this solution. We'll push all the drivers in for the new system, so if you want to change from Dell to Fujitsu, you can quite easily, and we'll push all the latest drivers in for that system. We can even resize the partitions, so if, say, you've got a server, your file server, for example, was running out of space because everyone was storing God only knows what, all their iTunes accounts and things like that on it, which no one should ever do. At that point, we could expand out the volumes within there and give you more space. So at that point, there's extra tools within there to help your business grow. And then finally, if we want to go back into a virtual environment, say you've got a VMware environment sat there and you need to go from a physical environment to VMware, all you need to do is export out the images, and we're going to export out VMDK files for each of our 3 systems there and push those into VMware. And it is as simple as just dragging them across and hitting start. And again, that's something that ATG would handle for you, so you guys don't really need to worry about it. Now, over and above that, there is a load of reporting and alerting built in. So one of the biggest ones to look at, if I go into Protect, and then we jump into Manage Recovery Points. We don't expect you, like I said earlier, we don't expect you just to sit there and think, oh, all of my backups are fine. Yeah, sure, it'll work, hopefully, probably. Let me just go and grab a lucky rabbit's foot. We want to test that data, and that's where intelligent business continuity comes in. Long gone are the days of praying and hoping for the best. What we've done here is we've booted up within the system a virtual copy of your server. We've allowed that to boot up in a disconnected network state, get to the login screen of your system, then at that point screenshot it. So we've just taken a screen capture, saved that and turned off the virtualization. At this point, we're not only proving that a backup has been taken successfully, we're not just proving that the backup data is intact, we are proving complete recoverability is absolutely 100% available to you because it's totally tested it here. So that way, if you were to have an issue, if heaven forbid someone does pull out that cable in that rack that I have no idea what it does, we can know that that system can be spun up like that and everything will be back up and working within 6 seconds. So, just to jump back to the presentation, because I'm almost certain there's still a few bits within here. So, to sum up, Downtime is not only caused by a disaster. Downtime is most likely and almost always caused by one person within your company who is a nitwit. They think they've got a free holiday coming. They think they've got something coming up. They don't. It is a virus and it will cause major catastrophe. Risk identification is key. Obviously, this carries on from what John was saying. Within a company, where are the risks? What is going to cause these issues? Is it a case of the numpty user, or is it a case of National Grid? I'm going to keep using that example forever. It's great. Couldn't script that. And then backup and business continuity are two totally different things. Backup is a rudimentary way of protecting data. Business continuity is a way, within IT terms, of protecting your entire business. If you've got an e-commerce site, if you sell things on the web, if you have, I don't know, an engineering department that has CAD design drawings that are God only knows how big, if they lose that, what happens? Goodbye business. It's not something, like I said, I want to scare the bejesus out of you today because it's Halloween, but also because I want everyone in this room to be fully protected with business continuity. Now, within ATG's portfolio, within 5nines, there's a full range of solutions. There's the 5nines Lite in a lovely violet colour, 5nines Enterprise in lime green, and 5nines NAS in orange. Different flavours, if you will. Now, options start at just 150 gig. So you don't sit here and think, oh, I've only got 50 gig of data, I don't need this. You always need this. It's the biggest thing. And it can go up to hundreds of terabytes, but let's be honest, if anyone in this room's got hundreds of terabytes, you're at the wrong seminar. Local and cloud is included with every single solution. So it's not just a case of we're going to sell you a bit of tin and hope for the best. You get both ends with that UK-based data centre, fully resilient and redundancy-wise. I made up a word. And then with a near instant, I'm not going to say complete instant. 6 seconds is not complete instant. But if you want that complete instant, you're looking at high availability, and then you're looking at a price point which is astronomical. Any questions? I love that picture. Just looks so relaxed. Any questions from anyone? Does anyone want to know anything?
How much for the light version?
That's a very good question, and that's something that if you post back to ATG, they will be able to have a chat with you. If you grab one of the guys afterwards, I'm sure they'll go through pricing with you. No questions. God, I'm good.
There's only one thing that I think you should mention to the guys is, so although there's an on-premise version, if a fire did happen, or a flood or theft or whatever else, because we're replicating up to the cloud, with the same 6 seconds you can have your servers running from the cloud.
Absolutely. So that cloud data isn't just there sitting looking pretty and making you have a good night's sleep. You do have the ability to spin up virtual copies of your systems within the cloud, have the same networking capabilities within that cloud environment, and then have connectivity into that. Different levels of connectivity, it depends on your needs. If you want just standard, as if you were sat in your office connectivity, it's VPN. If you have a terminal server, you can use a remote desktop. If it's just an e-commerce site, we'll just give it a public IP and let it do its thing in the corner. But yeah, that is total business continuity.
What about getting the stuff back from the cloud down to your new machine?
So we're talking post-disaster,
Yeah.
when you've got a new site or you've found something to work from. So at that point, that's where a new piece of kit would be built up. The latest cloud images put onto that piece of kit to give you a good starting point. Send that out to you, and at that point you can then use that for the bare metal restore or the image exportation feature, and then build up your entire site again, just as it was before the fire, flood, hurricane, whatever.
And that bit of kit that's sent you is included in the fee.
Yeah.
So you get a brand new bit of kit. Even if you took a hammer to yours, they'll give you a brand new one back. No, you.
Yeah.
Well.
Don't give them ideas.
I need to upgrade my server.
Yeah.
No, it's the 5nines box.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure if you took a hammer to a piece of Fujitsu kit, they wouldn't take that nicely to. Yeah. Warranty covered? No.
What's the timescale for replacing the 5nines kit if that's gone as part of the disaster?
So at that point, as soon as ATG put that process in, goes to the top of the build queue, so it's built as quick as humanly possible. They can be built up well within a day, and then it's next day shipping. So you're looking at 2 days.
In the meantime, you're running from the cloud anyway. Your
Yeah.
servers are fully operational from there.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah,
So you
so
run from the
So
cloud.
you've got no
You
downtime.
just haven't got that.
Yeah.
yeah, and then obviously I guess in that scenario, the best option would be just run from the cloud until you've got your new site and everything like that. Because let's be honest, the last thing you're thinking of at that point is, I need my 5nines box. You're thinking, I've lost all my stuff. And at that point, you're just running from the cloud, and then you let Mark know, let the guys know, and they'll get that new box shipped out to you when it's convenient to you. And come and help put it all in and do all the bits and pieces. Wonderful. And then post this, obviously, it'd be good to have a talk to the guys at ATG about it. It's not so much these days about, you must have this solution. It's about, we want to help protect your company. So thank you.